What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Likes and Cash podcast. Today, I get my good friend Oliver Cantin. Now, Oliver's been kind of like a mentor to me. Like when I was at maybe like 1,000 followers, he gave out a free call, and I don't know if you remember this, but you gave out 5 free calls. I won one of them, and I told you, man, like if I could just get $500 a month, I just want $500 a month. And you looked at me like, dude, like you need to be thinking like bigger. This is just not gonna cut it. And ever since then, I started learning a lot from you. And I'm really grateful to have you on this podcast with me today.
Thank you for the great intro, JK. My name is Oliver. You may or may not know me from Twitter. I am the account that helped JK blow up, and now more people follow JK than follow me. So most of you don't know me. I am a marketing guy, internet marketer, marketing strategist, coach to a degree as well. And my biggest field of interest is audience monetization. So helping people who have an existing audience monetize that audience, whether it's on social media or on email.
Can we talk about the strategy maybe you had in the beginning? I remember we started kind of at the same time, but you were growing
Sure.
at such higher rate than everybody else that started in 2020. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it seems like a long time ago, right? I guess yeah. The environment was pretty different on Twitter back then, and the trends were mainly drop shipping. I would say at that time. Would you agree?
Drop shipping, a lot of Gumroad was starting to pop up when it first
Yeah,
started.
yeah. So e-com and specifically people using the word drop shipping, and then some lower ticket info products, many of them related to drop shipping and some other stuff. So I came from the agency world before that was a hot topic on Twitter, which now it's kind of moved on from that, but that was the hottest topic for a while. So I came from the agency world and I came from the high ticket info product world. And when I started tweeting, I noticed that volume meant more impressions. So more tweets meant more impressions, and more impressions meant more followers, right? And I would say one thing that really worked in my favor and that I noticed and I eventually put in a course was strategic engagement with other accounts, specifically making self-contained comments on someone else's tweet. So something that would be very easy to be retweeted and engaged with, right? So for example, instead of saying, hey bro, great idea, I love your tweet, and then your thing, you skip that first sentence and you go right into something that would be a tweet quality comment. So if I put it this way, I pioneered, if I can call myself a pioneer, the tweet quality comment at scale. So when I started and decided I wanted to grow my account, let's say I tweeted 10 tweets a day, actual tweets, but then like 50 top tweet quality comments as comments on the right accounts. So that was my secret, if you want to know that in a couple sentences.
I like it. Is it a strategy you'd recommend for somebody who's just trying to grow? I get a lot of people who have maybe like less than 1,000 or 2,000 followers. They're like, nobody's seeing my stuff.
Yeah, so that's if you go with your likes ain't cash, but to get likes you need visibility, right? If we zoom out from the Likes ain't cash podcast and we say, well, we need impressions, we need something to feed the impressions, and then even higher up, like we need some kind of inspiration, right? So depending on which level you wanna talk about. So today, I mean, the reality is you are thinking about Twitter way more than I am now. I'm not really thinking about Twitter day to day at this point in my life. So I'm gonna give you an answer. You can tell me if I'm completely wrong. Whatever you need to do to get the right people to notice you and follow you. So if I was starting today, I would design a strategy that would allow me to get the core 10, 20, or 30 people that I want to follow me to get the social proof that the right people follow me, right? So the way I decide to follow someone is by who already follows them. So and by the way, we can make an allusion to FTX and SBF in there. So I outsource my due diligence to other people The difference is the stakes are zero. I follow and unfollow people, and I'm not putting my financial health at risk or giving people my social security number, right? But so that would be what I do. So having noticed my own behavior, if you give me one of your students, JK, and you say, Oliver, you're in charge of this student today, I would say, okay, well, let's be very clear on who has an audience similar to the one that you want, and how do I become an ally to these people rather than a competitor. And so that's going to imply some kind of different positioning. And then what do I need to do to get these people to notice me, like me, and eventually follow me? And so all of that is a really long way to say, yes, strategic comments make sense, but then the comments have to be good enough that people click on your profile. And then your profile has to be different enough and specific enough. Like if we take fitness coaches, right? So there's a lot of fitness coaches on Twitter. If I just tell you maximum results in minimal time, that's my angle, and then I have another guy who's got the same angle, I'm not going to follow him. Why would I bring awareness and attention to someone with the exact same angle? It makes no sense. Some people might do out of friendship, but as a business person, it doesn't make sense. But let's say you are this same person, and then you go follow nutrition accounts or science accounts or fatherhood accounts, and you make yourself a little bit more differentiated. Now you become the minimal result, maximum time, so you can be the role model father you want to be. Suddenly, then it might make sense for the big fatherhood accounts to follow you.
I like it. Reminds me of a tweet you posted about how, maybe I'll butcher it, but it's like good marketers think about positioning, great marketers never think about positioning because it comes natural to them. Something like that. How do you think about positioning? Because I have my mental models, but I've heard some people say it's more of an art than a science, so it's like kind of hard to nail down.
So it's one of those kind of controversial words. Some people use positioning interchangeably with branding, for example, which I don't think makes sense, but whatever, right? So like, I think by now everyone who would be watching this knows what an offer is. I think we can agree on that. So we know that you have an offer or you want to have an offer. That offer is in a niche. So your positioning is where you fit in that niche, not just your offer, but so for people to eventually want to hear about your offer, they have to be interested in the niche. And if you are the same as everyone else in your niche and you're smaller, then no one cares. So by definition, we're not talking here with people with 20 million followers. Therefore, you're probably not the biggest, loudest voice in your broad niche. So we want to be different. So instead of competing in trying to be better, it is better to be more specific and different. So in a way, it is hyper niche or sub niche selection. And then it's, how do you do that? So do you do that by being pro something or against something or a combination of both?
Do you have any examples?
What you, so let's keep the health industry, which I'm most familiar with. So there's only really a few things that can move the needle for your body, health, and fitness, right? So obviously what you eat, exercise, sleep, and then we can say everything else, including sunshine, air, supplements, whatever, right? So we can argue all day about what matters the most. I think the reality is there isn't one correct answer. And some people, so let's actually talk about real accounts. So Grimhood talks about everything, but his positioning is more on the side of it's stuff that's outside the mainstream. Like he's a herbalist. That's what his actual profession is, right? So he talks about things from a herbalistic lens and quantum biology lens. He acknowledges the importance of nutrition and of exercise, but he talks less about these things, right? He even says, hey, if you like what I have to say and you need help with the physicality, he points out to another account, which is Bowtied Ox for fitness, right? So bow-tied ox, if we take him now, so he has a positioning inside the get jacked niche. First of all, he's anonymous. He's inside that jungle. He's posted his very impressive physique, and he has acknowledged that there's no one true diet, right? So recently he tweeted something like, I have nothing against keto or low carb, but it's not the one true thing. So what his positioning is, I am jacked, being flexible. I'm a reasonable person. I don't have dogma. And then we can sub-analyze other components, right? The fact that he's anonymous, he's former army, he's a businessman, he's interested in crypto. So all of these factors make him different, right? And then let's say we take Dango. So Dango is different than Grimhood, different than Bow-Tied Ox, and then he is talking mainly about food and exercise, right?
Yeah.
He's talking to a slightly different audience. So he's targeting entrepreneurs and high performers. But if you really think about it and zoom out more, and with respect, I like those three guys, by the way, right? But with respect, if you zoom out, you could get help from either of those guys. If you, assuming they all have a coaching program, which I think they all do, if I describe my goals, dreams, desires, and problems, they would approach it slightly differently, but I trust all three to get me in the right direction. So that's positioning, right? Which of these people do I relate to? For me as a man in his 30s, living in Florida, I think of my own problems and goals in a specific way. And so your positioning is, it's a magnet for specific people. And its efficiency and efficacy is relative to other magnets around. And if you aren't the most powerful magnet, so the loudest voice, the most followers, the most social proof, then trying to be better in the same magnet field, let's say, is going to be a lot more difficult than being in a different area. To position. So, and by the way, here we're assuming that the solutions are not that different, right? But to position your solution as different. So, for example, if I needed to compete with those three guys, none of them are really focused on time, right? So I wish I planned this. I'm spitballing here, but none of these three guys are especially focused on get great results in less time. So we could say, okay, whatever the problem is that you would go to those guys to, one of the factors is time, right? If you think of the value equation, so likelihood or perception of likelihood of achieving the result and an effort and sacrifice. So time is a huge one. So I could enter that market now and then make my biggest thing about time, right? So let's just say, and a lot of fitness guys have done that, of course. Let's just say 10-minute a day fitness, right? All you need is 10 minutes per day. My core positioning and angle could be about time. The biggest excuse that people often have in this market is lack of time or perceived lack of time. So if I lead with an objection countering claim that it's 10 minutes per day, I'm going to resonate with a lot of people. Of course, I have to be congruent. I have to have social, all this stuff, but that would be a way to position, right? So Ox is positioned as get really jacked, like his physique. So the messenger is part of the positioning. Grimhood is also his personality and the fact that he overcame really severe stuff. So if you have that kind of pain, he's the right guy. Dango, he's self-identifying himself as an entrepreneur, and he wants to attract other entrepreneurs. And then the guy I just made up, he could be, that's all great, these three are all great, but I don't have time. And these three guys, their messaging currently isn't focused on time. So I could go really, really hard on time and attract some of these people with some other sub-buckets and pillars, and etc.
Love it. The other day I was going over fitness offers, because now that's something I do a lot in, like, for people who come to me for Twitter. I try to figure out positioning first. And there's this offer that keeps reappearing in the fitness world that's lose 20 pounds in 12 weeks, right? And I've seen people do 25 pounds in 12 weeks, or 22 pounds, 23 pounds in 12 weeks. And you said something that's really interesting. It's not about just trying to be better than the guys. It's about to try to be different from the rest. You know what I mean? So another good example I'll add to what you said is Alex Feinberg. He's all about like
Yeah.
sustaining gluttony, right? You can eat whatever you want. It's all about just I think it's protein intake and whatever. Anyway, he's like you can eat whatever you want and still get jacked, right? Or still be lean. So that's
Yeah,
also good
that's right.
positioning.
And so if you want to analyze his, right? So knowing, and you and I are interested in health and fitness. You're probably in better health than I am, but we're interested, right? So we know, yes, of course, if you were to count and track calories very clearly, you would get results, right? Like that's kind of obvious. So when you have the message, you can eat whatever you want. This is the message, right? Eat whatever you want. Me as a skeptical consumer, what I hear is, of course, if I track my calories and am in a deficit, I can eat whatever I want, right? So it's true, but it's not very compelling to me. Alex's message is compelling because he says, eat whatever you want and don't count calories. So it may sound subtle to those who are not studying this market, but it is super powerful positioning. The interesting thing, if you want to analyze further, is, and I'm doxing some amazing information here, is the messenger. So you have the positioning, but the messenger is also really important. If we talk about organic sales, right? So sometimes people don't think deeply enough about their own self as the messenger or the guru. I like to call this. So yeah, you need good positioning to have product market fit or offer market fit, but one step above is you need guru market fit. So you as the messenger have to have a fit with the people you're talking about. You have to have congruence with your offer. So you have your positioning as a person, and then you have your offers positioning. So those are different things. They're all related, but they're different, right? So if someone comes to you or me and says, okay, I don't want to play the claims war. I don't want to create claims blindness, right? So yes, the last thing we need is another 20 pounds per week or 20 pounds in 12 weeks, right? If we have no other information, that's really played out. But if the messenger is, let's just say, an Indian vegetarian, right? So that's an interesting segment of the market. So there's a lot of people who are of Indian descent or South Asian descent who don't eat meat. So if you took that claim, 20 pounds in 12 weeks, the messenger was an Indian vegetarian guy, and the target were also Indian vegetarians, then that claim is great. Because it's without eating meat, without like the claim is the what you're getting without the whatever, right? So that if you were to do a whole exercise of what we're doing with positioning and the offer, and the first thing is who's the messenger? That's that's meta positioning. Who's the messenger? And this is especially important for audience monetization and for organic. If you're using paid traffic, you can use third-party stories, VSL, but like in our context of Twitter, the identity of the messenger will dictate the congruency of the positioning and the credibility of the offer and the market's beliefs about their ability to use that offer to get the result they want.
Awesome. We get to back to fitness again. This guy called Peyton on Twitter, he's an engineer, right? But he's like super jacked, like 700-pound deadlift and stuff. He's strong, right? And his whole positioning is not all about like lose this many pounds in this many weeks. He's all about, he's like the data-based fitness guy, right?
Yeah.
Everything you need is just numbers. That's like the missing piece you need. So he'll track everything as an engineer, and he attracts other engineers.
So I don't think I know that particular, but yeah, that's another. So if we take in marketing terms, so that's a new mechanism, right? So I don't know enough to comment on this positioning, but it seems like it's a new mechanism, and that mechanism is geared towards a certain kind of person, right? And it makes sense, right? It's true that yes, if you just look at the world as inputs and outputs, if you have the right inputs, then great. People struggle with, well, what are the right inputs for me? And so if you can deconstruct the human biochemistry in reps and sets and calories and reverse dieting and pyramid training and all this stuff, then it can be very compelling.
Yeah. We we have a very similar thing that we do. We show other people how to monetize audiences, which is kind of funny because when I first created Likes and Cash, that wasn't tailored to small accounts. People think it's tailored to if you have a small following, you can make big money. Somewhat is, but it was more tailored towards big accounts that had a bunch of likes but weren't making any money.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
It kind of
That's where the name comes from.
and but people kind of misunderstood it the opposite way. It's like, oh, I don't need a big following to make money. That's how they get it. And I'm not gonna get in the way of that. I'm like, yeah, sure, like you can keep posting it if you want, but I have like my own views on why people just fail to monetize their big audiences. But I'd like to talk about what do you think? What are some mistakes you've seen big accounts make when it comes to monetization?
Yeah. So I like you've used that bridge metaphor or explanation right a few times. So I think that's right. And the reality is they're just two different skill sets, right? I think if we're just thinking about it, attracting attention and creating products that people want to buy, and then making it easy and desirable for people to buy those products, they're just two very different things. That's the reality. Just like marketing and sales are different, right? Copywriting and phone sales are different. Selling yourself as a web designer or selling your agency as a web designer agency and doing the work are two very different things. I'm very confident that you and me, I don't think you know how to although you do have kind of a design background, yeah, you're a multi-set person, but if we take that example, right? You and me could sit down today and invent some kind of new mechanism for design without ever designing something, and either doing it ourselves and using ourselves as the gurus, or launching a new guru who would be, as I talked about before, the right messenger for that kind of offer. The guru would know what to think about and talk about in terms of the technical skills, but he or she may not know to create the kind of content that activates people's buying signals, right? So making them feel the pain that they feel, having them foster the belief that you're the person to help them, and having them trust you, creating some urgency. So they're two different things. And I know you've said this in many ways. The kind of content that gets someone to book a call or send a DM or opt in is not the same kind of content that goes super viral. And of course, many people are doing like the auto plugs, right? Where you try to do both at the same time. You try to go viral, which may or may not be valuable, as we can talk about. But you try to get enough eyeballs, and then you try then to have some of those eyeballs enter your funnel. So yeah, my answer is simply, they are two different skills. Some people have both. Like most people are not good copywriters and good phone closers. Most people are bad at both, if we're honest, but very rare are those who can do both competently. And then if you add, let's say, managing people, then it's even rarer. So it's like, what do you want to focus on, right?
Yeah. Can we get into maybe, I want to go into specifics. I'm like, I have a big account. Do you have a process?
Yeah.
I think it's called 4R. Is that the 4R process? You take people to, your 4R system.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. How do you monetize a big audience?
So the 4R thing it's really more pillars than a process. It's simply the four things that matter when you have an offer. So it's not about attracting traffic. It's really about monetizing traffic, right? So, and I have it right here for myself. So it's doing the kind of things that get you reviews, doing the kind of things that get you referrals, doing the kind of things that get you renewals, and then doing the kind of things that avoid refunds. So if you were to create some kind of project plan or dashboard or whatever for your, and this is true for almost any business, right? So you need to have key activities in each of these categories, and we can unpack those more specifically. But if you say, hey, I am creating a product ecosystem, whether it's a course, a cohort-based course, a coaching program, a done-for-you experience, I want to do the kind of stuff that gets me reviews. So that means doing good work, being on time, communicating well, etc. I want to get referrals. So that means doing better than people expected, right? Who do we refer? If an experience was as expected, if you go to Chipotle and you get the burrito you expected, you're not going to tell your friends, go to Chipotle or go to that Chipotle. Let's just say,
I appreciate the accents on that.
You know what? You know what, JK? Today the guac is free. Like that's such a big like pattern interrupt, right? For Chipotle. So you might actually text your friends, dude, guac is not extra today at that Chipotle. So you can find examples in your business. And then renewals. So this is the difference between a transactional relationship and an ongoing relationship, right? So when you help someone solve problem A, B, and C, and they're happy, the happy consequence of that is there will now be problems D, E, and F. So maybe you're the right person to help them, or maybe you have a referral network of people that can help them with the future problems. And when you nail those 3 R's, the reviews, the referrals, and the renewals, well, by definition, if someone is leaving you a good review, giving you referrals, and renewing, the last thing they're doing is refunding. So if you worry about refunds, and that's something people worry more about at scale, of course, right? But if you worry about refunds and chargebacks, instead of trying to play defense, it's better to play offense to maximize reviews, referrals, renewals.
Love it. It's all my, like in the beginning of my Twitter journey, all I focused on was acquisition, right? Just how to get more people inside the door. And working with Ryan and seeing what you talk about, I realized just how important the back end is. When I partner up with him, he said, you know what my goal for this is? I'm like, what? He said, I want to get a referral from every client and a client from every referral.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, that's good. That's good. You wanna talk about how important the back end is. Nobody's thinking about this. Like your 4 R's, you didn't mention acquisition, which is like 99% of money Twitter now, you know?
Yeah. Well, so we can touch on a lot of those. So like, if we just think of like claims that you make, like claim match and claim mismatch based on the people you want to attract, right? So if you want to attract newer people, what do new people, and by the way, I've had that same perception and different type, and you've had that perception too, you've just talked about it. So the perception from new people is they need more leads, right? That is the universal perception. And the way that is sold to people, so my first online business was an agency. I was doing lead generation for dentists. I was just smart enough to know that was super hyper commoditized. And then I said, okay, I guarantee butts in the chair. That was my thing, right? So, and then I realized, okay, there's only specific processes or treatments that people want to, for example, braces, Invisalign, that stuff, right? So a new cleaning patient is not very valuable to a dentist, but an Invisalign patient is very valuable. So what I was doing was just Facebook ads and copy. It was very, very basic, but I was just clever enough to figure out, okay, these guys are being told you're going to get people in your calendar or a spreadsheet for people to call. You're going to get leads, right? They don't want more leads. And I realized in that journey that even if you get them butts in the chair, they still need help to actually sell them the right stuff, right? So I think this is interesting for people. It's a bit of a tangent, but if I was entering that market today, what I've learned is the only kind of dentist I would want to work with now if I was still doing done-for-you agency stuff would be a dentist that has a salesperson on staff. So they call those case presentation specialists or treatment plan coordinators or that kind of stuff, but really they're closers. So now, knowing what I know now, I would be painfully filtering out dental practices that have this role. A dentist that doesn't have that role and who himself or herself tries to close, they're always bad. By the way, they're always bad at sales. And that means they don't see their business as seriously as someone who's willing to invest in a salesperson. So that's a lesson learned there. So you're asking the back end, right? So I'm talking about all of this to say I want a long-term relationship with my business partners who are influencers, and I want a long-term relationship with their clients, right? So that's why I'm focused on these things. I've had a lot of, like, oh, we'll do a launch, or I'll do stuff for another agency, I'll do stuff for a different company, and all this stuff. So not only do I want to productize my offer in the front in terms of acquiring clients and partners for my business, but I want to really dial in the back end of that offer. So I would rather get 100 great leads per month, and exactly as Ryan is talking about, who are going to be happy, pay on time, and be happy to pay a premium to get a result that they really want, to be the kind of people that become case studies and testimonials, who will then be inspired to refer friends and family with the same kind of problems, and then people who see the value of investing in themselves in the form of coaching, and who are looking to make a major change in their life, right? So for you, let's say I'm a web designer. I come to JK Molina, and I say, hey, I want to get my first 5 clients. I want to make 10K per month, right? Everyone wants that. So everyone is talking about, hey, you should drive leads, right? Or how you're going to get DMs and stuff. What you, I think, teach people is, that's great, but how do you get the right people, right? How do you choose the right clients? And then, I don't know how far you go in that part of the business, but in terms of operations and fulfillment, so what makes me different than a lot of marketers is I really care, and we're excellent at operations and fulfillment. So if I work with someone as a business partner or a growth partner or an advisor or a coach, we help also on the operations side. And this is what is painful and difficult and time consuming. And it's the kind of problem that you only realize after a while, right? You've had a few 10K months or 20K months or 30K months, but your churn is high, or people aren't renewing, or maybe you don't even have a back-end offer yet, right? So you're not really fully thinking of, how do I build a real business? So obviously people need to start somewhere. They need to get a skill. They need to have an offer. They need to have clients, but people often stay stuck here. So a real business is not just an offer, right? It's the whole ecosystem. And by definition, a real business will have more than just one offer almost all the time. There's exceptions, but generally speaking, you're going to have more than one offer. And the next logical offer will be some kind of back-end continuity plan.
Love it. That's something that was so hard to understand in Tweet Hunter, because there were a few months where we grew like 20%, right? Like 25%. And Thibaut and Thomas got it. I didn't get it. They said, like, man, next month's going to be rough. Like, dude, what do you mean? Like, there are so many people. They're just going to talk to us. They're not going to talk about us to others. They're like, no, you don't get it, because at some point you can't just keep acquiring customers. Like, you need to make every customer more valuable instead of keep bringing in people. And I didn't get that. And they were focusing on that. I was just trying to get clients, and yeah, next month was slower.